Guitar Heroes. So actually have a good instrumental guitar section next to my surf section, but I think it could be anything that where the guitar work is what's featured. Oh, it could be an instrument that's similar to guitar, like an oud.
You want to go,
I
Eric?
don't, I couldn't even imagine picking anything up for this theme at first because I don't have any. I don't. I think of like Guitar Hero that evokes like somebody who's like shredding and in spandex, and I don't really have a lot of that.
I don't own a whole lot of records that are spandex coated, shall we say. Maybe beyond, I do have some Scorpions records though, so that would count. Uh, and the Van Halen. All right, so I've got a ton of records that would fit this category. And the challenge for me was trying to figure out two that I felt like talking about. I figured mainly I would talk about tone, two very different kinds of guitar tone from two guitar virtuosos.
Oh,
Yeah, I have some tonalist as well. So I picked, oh, let's see. Well, this is pretty obvious. I picked Tom Verlaine. This is an instrumental record that he did. Of course, he's known for being the songwriter and guitar player, one of the guitar players for television. And in this particular album, it looks like a light bulb. It's actually an allusion to a street scene. It was probably photoshopped, but anyway, so I always found that sort of fascinating. It's called Warm Cool. It's from 1992. He did another instrumental record between touring with television. 14 years later, he made another instrumental record called Around, which is really good. But this one has a couple really strong songs. So his guitar playing, he influenced many, and his guitar tone is really recognizable because of the warble. He uses the whammy bar really in a subtle way, and lots of English on the strings. This is actually an inspired 1960s instrumental with experimental mixed in. It's stark and minimal and maximal. It's modal in parts where he's playing with the melody, but he also has a very distinctive rhythmic application he puts to the melody work. Okay, it's the usual sidemen to his solo records and television as well. They're all here. Fred Smith being dominant in the bass. And he had influences as well, and you can hear them clearly on this album. It's like Albert Ayler, John Coltrane, Dwayne Eddy, The Shadows, Hank Marvin come to mind. This is the kind of music that exercises a freedom that I can equate to running down a hill, jumping over a fence, and wading in a creek. It's just sort of a meandering freedom. It's not rock, it's not prog or jazz, and it goes in my instrumental guitar section. Okay. And I also chose, and this is pretty obvious choice for me, Sandy Bull, Inventions from 1965. And you notice on the cover, he's displaying all the guitars he used, including, is there an oud on there? Yeah, an oud right here. So he's playing bass and he's playing rhythm guitar and solo lead guitar. He seems to be fascinated with a tune he calls blends, which is just an excuse to improvise. So this has blends too. And what's distinctive is not so much his tone, is his improvisational ideas. So it's him and Billy Higgins, the jazz drummer, improvising in parts, but they also do ballad interpretations where he does a lot of overdubbing of the bass and the rhythm guitar. It's got a jazz underpinning. These are mostly mood pieces that combine Eastern scales with American blues, and sometimes in a really contrasting fashion. Oh, and on the back, he's pictured with a squirrel on his head. So that's cool. So he moved to San Francisco in the early 60s and actually was roommates with Hamza El-Din, the famous
Really?
North African oud player who influenced his music from that point forward. He also has a classical side where he does a Bach piece at the end of side one, and then the same piece, number two, on side two. The first side is really like over reverbed, over amped guitar, probably too much reverb, in fact. And then the second side is on a nylon string classical guitar, two Bach pieces. And that's something that's distinctive is that unusual guitar tones that he contrasts, really over reverb and then, more subtle, Fender sounding guitar, electric work. It's comforting and mercurial, but also perplexing. And there's a 10-minute version of instrumental version of Memphis by Chuck Berry, which seems to be his stalwart tune he plays all the time live. And he's definitely got those contrasting reverb tones on that. This is eclectic in its influences, and it goes in my instrumental guitar section. And that be it.
Okay, my first record is Steve Hillage's Green. Yeah, 78. So Steve Hillage, English guitarist, he came out of the Canterbury School of Prague originally. Then he joined Gong, and he was with Gong for its sort of classic early to mid 70s albums. Then he went out on his own. And Green is this really cool sort of transitional album because he had always been interested in synthesizers and electronic music. He would go on by the 80s, he was making basically dance music and ambient stuff. But this one combines, it's got a lot of synth in it. But his guitar is really front and center, and he's a hell of a guitarist. And he actually played something I didn't even know this was a thing until I looked it up. He played a guitar and an early guitar synthesizer while making this album. It kind of looked like a Les Paul, but with lots more controls on it. This album is a little bit proggy, a little bit new agey, ambient. There's a couple of songs that would almost even qualify as funk, maybe. Those are not my more favorite songs on this record, but there's no bad songs on here. His guitar tone on this, his guitar synthesizer, I guess. I was wondering what kind of effects he was using. I figured he must have had a, hell of a pedal board setup or something to create like these incredibly like liquid, fluid, dreamy, spacey guitar sounds. Like his solos are, they're kind of otherworldly on this record. And I guess they were all just, created using this guitar synthesizer thing. His playing on here, he can definitely be kind of shreddy when he wants to be, but again, not on this record. Everything's kind of restrained, tasteful, every note in the right place, and not too many of them. It's just a really good listen, front to back. And number two, sort of on the other end of the spectrum, tone wise, is Sleep's Dope Smoker record. So yeah, this is the 2003 version on TP Records. This was the first legit version, like band approved version of this enormously influential and sort of like groundbreaking 63-minute long stoner doom song by the band Sleep. Their guitarist is a guy named Matt Pike, who would later go on to form High on Fire, and I could have chosen really any Matt Pike album. Yeah, this was the original cover. And the later cover is also very cool. It has like these Jawa sort of creatures, like smoking bongs crossing the desert. That's also cool. But I kind of like this scary horseman guy as well. But yeah, there's a ton of lore behind this album. So Sleep, they got signed into a big record label. As the story goes, they spent their sizable advance on guitar pedals and weed. But when they finally delivered it, the record label basically refused to put it out because it was a 63-minute long song. And Sleep ended up breaking up. But all that said, this thing finally got a real, it got bootlegged a few times and then it finally got real releases starting in, I think, this one, 2003. Yeah, 2003 on TP. And then about 10 years later, Southern Lord re-released it with the new cover. And then 10 years after that, Third Man released it, and you can find it everywhere now. And it's very much worth listening to. And so it's almost like a song cycle or something. It's like some raga, um, in which, it's the same basic thing, but with little variations all the way through. Um, most of it's probably instrumental, but some parts of it have Al Cisneros bellowing. But this is really, mainly about the groove. And Matt Pike's guitar just leads it. And with that, I turn it over. Eric?
I've got something considerably more primitive than anything you've shared with us. Link Wray and his Raymen. So of course, everything he released was really singles initially. This is a bit of a contrivance to have everything on an album. And this is from the early 70s, but it collects some of his earliest stuff. Anyway, Mr. Ray was a pioneer of the nasty guitar instrumental, nasty or sleazy guitars instrumental. His 1958 record Rumble is reputed to have been banned, and it's the only instrumental to have ever been banned for inciting violence, potentially among the youth. I don't know if that's true or not, but it does sound really mean. Um, this record, again, chosen somewhat at random, because what you really want are the singles. This has a charming song called Ramble, where the infamous rumble is actually turned into a gentle stroll through the countryside. Yeah, Link Rand is Raymond. Just really great early instrumental rock, sort of. It's sort of like a more land-bound version of the surf music of the day. That is to say, the late 50s, early 60s. Um, Also, a favorite of John Waters in his early movies. If Mondo Trasho, the famous chicken decapitation opening, is accompanied by a pirated Link Ray track. Basic facts. He basically invented distortion. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he did that, if he like kicked in his amp or something like that. He's definitely the kind of guy you can imagine getting in a knife fight, more than some kind of Englishman in a in one of those sort of pirate shirts. Link Ray. Then item number two, or guitar hero number two, we've got the unassuming gentleman from Hull, Mick Ronson, who only made a few solo records. This one's probably his best known and probably his best. It's Slaughter on 10th Avenue. Very little original material here, but good interpretations. But again, the real thing to note about him is his um, axe wielding chops. He was there with Bowie on all these great records, starting with The Man Who Sold the World. And then all the way up to I think Aladdin Sane, and the highlight along the way being, of course, the fabulous Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Ronson has this great sort of slow vibrato. I've heard it described, and and he's a really skilled. He didn't write too many songs, but the way that he interpreted them and arranged them is memorable and was commercially potent too. I just learned something that uh, was news to me, which is that he actually gets credit for having given the world John Cougar Mellencamp's Jack and Diane in the form that we know it. Apparently, he produced it. Before going on to produce Morrissey, he did produce with David Bowie Lou Reed's Transformer, which is a great record, of course.
Dark.
He just gave everything a really full sound, and I don't know, his guitar is playing is very distinctive. The sort of theatricality of Ziggy Stardust, of the music, really comes out in his playing, I think. Real Marksman's Eye, Shot to Kill. I think there might be sort of inverse symmetry between John Cougar and David Bowie.
I mean, I'm trying to get Jackie Diane out of my head.
The former crackhead turned.
Who's got the crack?
Is the weather nice?
Just replace cold water with warm, junky urine.
They're like, Memphis is known for a lot of things. It was good.
Big black hole.
What
Big
is
black hole.